Welcome back, everyone, here to Bronx Talk State. Got a very special video for you guys. We are going to be talking about Gleyber Torres and a possible trade to the Seattle Mariners and why we think it makes sense.
Gleyber Torres, he bursted onto the scene in 2018, was an all-star, finished third in Rookie of the Year voting. Then 2019, he's even better. Granted, there was juice balls, but 38 home runs, that's not something to laugh about. Then 2020, COVID shortened season. He took a bit of a step back. He was also playing some shortstop, missed some time though, too. You could have called it a down year. But then 2021, it's even worse. His OPS plus down to 93, below 100, which is league average. He was playing atrocious shortstop and eventually had to get moved out of the position, and pretty much an all-time low for Gleyber Torres. Going into the season, a lot of Yankee fans doubtful. We were hoping that we could have the 2019, 2018 Gleyber back, although it seemed like something more of the past. He had a bit of a resurgence, definitely a 114 OPS plus, seemed a lot more comfortable at second base. He still had a little bit of streakiness. There were times in the season, I think it was like August, where we were starting to say, oh, here he is again. And then he picked it up a little bit in September, and his overall numbers on the season looked great. And his defensive numbers were much better at second. So it's a little bit of a weird situation with Gleyber Torres. He finished the season great. The Yankees were trying to shop him at the trade deadline, and there was also talks almost as soon as the offseason ended about a possible trade to the Mariners. So it's a really interesting spot with Gleyber Torres, and that's why we're going to be talking about a potential trade to the Mariners. So I guess, Ryan, tell us why we're saying the Mariners and not the Marlins or another team.
Well, first off, at the deadline last year, the Yankees were actually really close to dealing him to the Marlins, and it kind of fell through at the last second. But a trade to the Seattle Mariners makes a lot of sense because they have a ton of good bullpen arms, a lot of good bullpen arms. They got a very good bullpen, and the Yankees are in the need for some relievers, some solid relievers to add to their bullpen. Their bullpen's not bad by any means. It's a pretty good bullpen, but with some injuries here and there, it would be nice to add some more high-end key pieces to really mesh and fill that bullpen and put it together. So yeah, that's why. I mean, the Mariners have a ton of good bullpen arms.
Yeah, and some of those guys, Paul Sewald, first of all, we saw with the Toronto Blue Jays, Mariners got a really good outfielder in Teoscar Hernandez just from shipping away some of their arms. And they still have a really good bullpen because that's how strong it is. And that's why I think they're going to make another trade. Because right now they have Dylan Moore at second base, who is okay. They have J.P. Crawford at shortstop. I don't know if the Mariners would be willing to move Torres to short. Although two middle infielders who aren't great, and I don't think the Mariners are going to go after one of those big four free agent shortstops. So that's why I think a trade for Gleyber Torres really makes sense. Some of their relievers, you have Paul Sewald. He has 2 years left in arbitration. Andres Munoz, possibly the guy I'm most high on. He has 3 years left to control, a 2.49 ERA last season, and he was one of the best relievers. My bold prediction, it's not that bold. I think he's going to be the best reliever in baseball for a long, long stretch of time. His baseball savant page is ridiculous. In the 99th percentile in expected batting average, strikeout percentage, expected slug percentage, whiff rate, chase rate, and he's in the 100th percentile in fastball velocity and expected ERA, which is ridiculous. His whole baseball savant page is dark red, and he also put up the actual numbers to prove how good he was. Another guy, Diego Castillo, who has 2 years left to control, I believe. So, I mean, all
Yep.
really great bullpen arms that we'd love to have on the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot of different choices to choose from, a lot of different types of relievers to bring in. Castillo, he's a hard thrower, right? Fit in back in the bullpen, come out, throw darts, and he was also a Yankee killer with the Rays. He was just unbelievably frustrating to watch him pitch against us. And you got guys like Paul Sewald. He's up there in age, but he still gets the job done very well. I pitched to a 2.67 ERA last year. So there's certainly a lot of different options. And Gleyber Torres' trade value is, I wouldn't say quite unbelievably high, but I would say he is a high trade value because his power has increased a lot since 2021. Hit 9 home runs, then hit 24 home runs this past season. And he's 25 years old, right? And he played a really good second base. Ever since he moved himself out of shortstop, he actually didn't get moved out of the position. He moved himself out of the position back to second base, but he's been very solid over there at second base, 25 years old. And, he's definitely shown a lot of signs of improvement and probably should have made the All-Star team this year for the American League. But with the Yankees in need of bullpen arms and the logjam over there, in the middle infielder, you got guys like Peraza, Volpe is going to come up at some point. You got Cabrera, who can play all over. You got DJ LeMahieu, right? There's so many guys at that, middle infield position. And someone's going to have to, move on. And Torres might be that guy. I like Gleyber Torres. I would not be mad if we didn't trade him. I actually think he's a very solid player. I just feel like with the Yankees' current spot in time, this might be a trade that they feel they might need to make to improve that bullpen, as you do have the players in the middle infield. The only thing, though, that could potentially happen to alter this trade is, for you guys to keep this in mind, DJ LeMahieu is supposed to get checked by a doctor on his toe, and he might need surgery. And if that happens, he's probably going to miss the start of the season next year. So Gleyber Torres could possibly stay on the roster if that happens. I think LeMahieu is supposed to get checked at the end of December. The Yankees will find out. So there's a lot of different variables, but we think this trade makes sense because the Mariners have a lot of good bullpen arms, and bringing some of those guys over to the Yankees, really providing us a strong bullpen, and they have the players in the middle infield. We think it could be a good trade for both sides.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, I know this isn't war, but the Yankees and Mariners have a common enemy. The Mariners are trying to get past the Astros. They want to win the division. They don't want to be a wild card team every year. And the Yankees just seem to not be able to get past the Astros since 2015. So they're separate teams. They're both trying to win on their own, but I think it's realistic to see the two try and help each other out.